As Linda told you, we had planned to celebrate flower communion today. I loved each year seeing our sanctuary full of flowers and also the individual blessings I do at flower communion. I promise we'll get back to that. I love flowers. I love getting them, not so much growing them. Now, I love the idea of growing flowers. So every year, I go to a local nursery and I buy a new hanging plant for the front, and I buy herbs for the backyard, and I buy some annuals to put in the ground. And all along, sometime around the middle of July, they're all dead. Now, part of that is because we've never had enough light in our yard for good flower growing. But part of that is about a lack of attention, which is about me. And I'm really sad to tell you that those little lettuce plants I told you about a couple of weeks ago, most of them have been eaten by something. So what I really like are perennials. You know what perennials are, right? Perennials are the flowers you put in the ground and you count on them to bloom every year. It's kind of like magic. So we have the crocus, and then the daffodils just appear, and then the tulips just appear, and then the azaleas just appear. So I kind of like that we can neglect them and the flowers come anyway. So I was surprised when I found a definition of perennials in an online gardening website this week. Perennials are defined as plants that grow back every year when given proper care. Proper care. Uh-oh. You mean I'm supposed to do something with them? Turns out that our plants, even our perennials, would be healthier and more likely to thrive if we cut back the flowers after they die, mulch them, fertilize them, and make sure that the soil is rich to grow them in. Kind of like us. There's a story in the Gospels about planting seeds. Perhaps you know it. It's called the parable of the sowers. It appears in 3 of the 4 Gospels, which is a pretty good indication that it actually is something that Jesus himself taught. Now, there's no human activity in the Bible as prevalent as farming. Farming was the major economy of the time. And the word sowing meant scattering seeds by hand. After sowing or scattering the seeds, the Palestinian farmer would plow the field, working the seeds into the ground so they would germinate and grow. So I want to read you the gospel story, and we have a slide so you can read it along with me. A sower went out to sow his seed. As he sowed, some fell on the edge of the path and were trampled on, and the birds of the air ate it. Some seed fell on the rock, and when it came up, it withered away, having no moisture. Some seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew with it and choked them. And some seed fell into rich soil and grew and produced its crop 100-fold. Paul actually echoes that theme later in 2 Corinthians and Galatians. You probably know this line from the Christian scriptures: the more you sow, the more you reap, right? Okay, so you knew that one. So might come back to me. We are like that seed, my friends, as well. Right now, many of us are feeling trampled on or choked, or that we have no moisture and we're concerned we're going to wither away. But given the right environment, the right mixture of loving and being loved and of connection, we will grow and prosper as well. Parenting is a little like sowing seeds, right? We know that children need love, respect, touch, and limits, and the rich soil of families, home, school, and yes, church, in order to flourish. So let me be clear. I am not saying we have to be perfect parents. I love that phrase from Bruno Bettelheim, a good enough parent. Understanding the difference between being a good enough parent and having a good enough child. And striving to be a perfect parent with perfect children means that we need to forgive ourselves our parenting mistakes, even if they were made 40 or 50 years ago. And I want to tell you, my heart particularly goes out to those of you who are parenting at home right now, who are having to be your children's teachers while you're doing your jobs, while you're keeping up your family responsibilities. I can't imagine the strain and stress you're under. So good enough in this time? Maybe just getting through the day would be good enough. Maybe taking a walk with your child would be better than trying to teach on some of those days. I remember a day when one of my children was about 4 years old, and it was a spring day, very much like today, and I wanted to take them on a Signs of Spring walk. So we went to a path, and what happened first is that they immediately saw a rock they liked. So we stopped. And then we went about another 2 feet, and there was a dandelion to be looked at and petals to be pulled out. I'm going to admit, I started becoming impatient. I wanted exercise. I wanted to get my child to the bridge in the center of the park. I wanted to be on a walk. So we walked another 2 steps, and there was a ladybug on a stick. And we stopped and watched it slowly inch from one end to the other. And then we took another step, and there was dirt to be played with. So in a half hour, we didn't go a quarter of a mile. And then, of course, I got it. That little bit of land, that was our Signs of Spring walk. And it didn't matter that we hadn't gone anywhere, for of course, we had. There's a name for this, for the philosophy of living radically in the present moment that children do so effortlessly and that we have to work so hard to do. It's called, surprisingly, perennial philosophy. It was coined by a 17th century German philosopher named Leibniz, Leibniz, and it was made popular in the US by Aldous Huxley of Brave New World fame. You might want to Google search that. Huxley wrote, "Once more, life is lived in the moment. The present moment is how the soul can pass out of time into eternity, through which grace can pass out of eternity into the soul, and through which love can pass from one soul in time to another soul in time." A few weeks ago, on my sabbatical Monday, Ralph and I took a ride to the Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, Maryland for a walk. I want to show you a few pictures. There was this beautiful wisteria tree. The park was full of azaleas and trees and beautiful flowers and beautiful Japanese architecture. And we were able to walk safely from others. Next slide, please. For an hour, we forgot the virus. For an hour, we forgot the state of the nation, and we were just present to all this beauty. Ralph told me he was experiencing joy that day. That's perennial philosophy. My friends, we need to seek out as many of those moments as we can during this time. A walk, an intimate conversation with a friend, planting a flower or enjoying a perennial. Maybe not trying to teach your child a lesson, but just being with them out in the woods. We so need joy in our lives. Love and life in the present moment, that's a perennial truth. It's what each of us is seeking, to love and be loved, to return to each day new, to count on the fact that we can be reborn when we tend to the soil and ground of our lives. So may it be, my friends. Happy Mother's Day.